sustain the GDP growth rate of 7 to 8%, then we must catch up with the rest of the world. In fact, I would go further and say that this outlay which the government has announced is perhaps the finance minister wanted to have more outlay, but because of his commitments in other sectors, he has not been able to increase this.
So you will give him a thumbs up for this one?
Yes, definitely.
Sir, you just mentioned about power sector. Now, if we compare infrastructure and power sector, because there is total two different outlay as per budget. The power sector got very less as compared to infrastructure, just 5,100 crores. Now, India, which needs power security at least.
It's starving, in fact.
So, any comment on that? Why such low in that part?
See, now I would like to change the track a little. Now let us look at the other sectors where the government has been spending. Now, rural development. There also, the increase has not been very significant. But some of the flagship schemes of the government, like the Rural Employment Guarantee and other, which are, there is a big question mark about how far really successful these schemes are, because there are all kinds of different undercurrents for as well as against these schemes, and a lot of controversies also surrounding these schemes. But then the government being committed to the Aam Aadmi and particularly to the economic justice for the rural population as well as the urban population and so on and so forth, government is perhaps hesitant to withdraw from that particular activity.
Yes, I want to make 2 points. Maybe private players will be allowed in power sector. And another thing is, government wants all the industries and businesses to be power independent. If you want power, generate it yourself or go to non-conventional power.
I guess that's the reason why most of the steel manufacturers
Yes.
and sugarcane manufacturers are now the power surplus coming in. So probably that thing. So it's an encouraging sign.
Encouragement to go for non-conventional power.
Lightings that you have, the provision has been made in the budget to the tune of 300 crore rupees, where the kerosene consumption will significantly go down in the rural areas.
Yes, sir, that was a really good sign. But what I missed in the budget was, I wanted your comment, is they said they will have some outlay for introducing the solar budget. But companies who are into manufacturing of silicon solar based cells, there are 3-4 companies, who are pretty disappointed because nothing was there for them in the budget.
Yeah, so some of the factors he has missed, FM has missed seriously. Every single objective which you have in short run or in medium term cannot be achieved in one budget alone. So the signal is already given that we will encourage more of this kind of development, and further things will definitely move on in the subsequent budgets.
I'd like to move to the other question. This fiscal deficit estimate in this year budget is kept at 5.5%, which earlier the experts were thinking that he will reduce by only 100 basis points, but he reduced by 130. And for the next 2 subsequent years, he has put it as 4.8% and 4.1%. Do you really think that these figures are attainable?
With the current loan being pegged at 3.4 lakh crores.
They are, probably because of the fact that your economy is coming back to the 9% growth trajectory. Once it goes there, and once your buoyancy or the tax compliance increases due to decrease in the tax burden that the individuals will have. So if you can maintain that buoyancy in the tax collection of 40% each year which you saw between 2003 to 2008, if that happens, and if you consolidate more on the expenditure that is done by the government, you will definitely achieve this target, because as it is said that your internal debt GDP ratio has already reached 80%. Now you just cannot allow it to extend any further. So either by increasing the tax revenue or by reducing the unnecessary, so-called unnecessary expenditures, you will have to fall in line with whatever your Fiscal Responsibility Budgetary Management Act provisions are. You will have to follow that.
Okay, sir.
Moreover, they have been harping for long for disinvestment of PSUs.
That was
If they are unable to do,
yes.
maybe to meet this deficit, they will go ahead with disinvestment.
I think I am not so enthusiastic or so optimistic on that count in terms of deficit, because the way I look at it is, I think the finance minister is gambling heavily on a good monsoon. and
Yes.
the corporate India doing well. These two things he is gambling heavily upon. If suppose, God forbid, the monsoon fails us in 2010, then we are in for a very serious trouble. Okay. Secondly, government borrowings, as he has rightly said, government borrowings is another factor which is quite worrying. If you look at the real deficit to GFD ratio, then it shows that for every 100 rupees that is being borrowed, okay, something like 73 rupees is going for just for consumption. It is not for investment. Only 27% is going for investment. So in order to just service the loan, in order to just pay the interest on the borrowing, that the government will have to generate something like 30% earning out of that 27. From that 27 rupees, government will have to generate an income of 30%. Now even best privately run companies cannot
do that.
expect to generate that kind of revenue from this in their investment. So I don't know how the government believes that it can generate that kind of revenue from and service the loans. That's a big question mark. That's a seriously worrying factor. So I would not be so optimistic in terms of deficit figures.
That's why I think S&P and Moody have reduced their ratings too, and our bond prices are shooting up and up and up. More hurdle rate for
So in terms of stock markets, I would rather wait for the Nifty to cross maybe 5,500 and then sell my stock and stay in cash.
So you are saying that that's a limit that Indian market will have.
The markets will correct from that
Correct from that
position.
Sir, as you mentioned about